What's up, Womack Nowstalgia? Dave here with a review of Kanye West's 11th album, Bully. This is technically Kanye's 11th album. Of course, this is a not officially released project, which seems to be more and more the norm with him lately. So I'm going to get into the album, get into the concept of this, where we're at with it. But obviously, Kanye is continuing to devolve as a public figure, saying tons of hateful rhetoric and all kinds of shock tactics and whatnot. I'm not trying to psychoanalyze or diagnose anything that's going on with him. It's pretty despicable. It's also pretty sad because it's just coming across as incredibly desperate for attention. And he's kind of transparent at this point about how kind of one note he is with a lot of that stuff. And that's what is so weird about Bully, is because the music is nothing like how he is acting publicly these days. So I'm not defending anything he does publicly at this point. There's very little of it that you can defend. But of course, he remains a significant musical figure, so I'm still interested in what he is doing musically, and that's really where the interest ends. So I'm going to get into that. Again, I don't begrudge anyone who has no interest in listening to new music from him. It has not been the most fruitful period of new music from him. Vultures 1 and Vultures 2, not strong efforts. Certainly poor albums, even if they have some highlights. Donda 2, a similar album to Bully in terms of how we were able to actually listen to it or lack thereof. Equally poor. And Donda 1, for that matter, an album that I thought was a massive disappointment. We are in a rough stretch right now. And whether we ever get out of that stretch is an open question. But Bully is here, and this is a album, in quotes, that was given to us in strange circumstances, tweeted out on multiple different tweets, different versions, Bully V1, etc., on Twitter, then uploaded to YouTube as like a around 30-minute short film, black and white, featuring Kanye's son Saint, slow-mo boxing, wrestling Japanese wrestlers in a ring. Then that gets taken down because shockingly, and I'm putting shockingly in the biggest quotes possible, the samples are not cleared on this album because that's how Kanye is these days. He doesn't really do the work anymore, you know? The other big aspect with this album is that he used AI for his own vocals. And it's kind of funny to me because if we think about like recent Kanye album criticisms, a big aspect has been like he doesn't finish the music, he doesn't finish the verses, there's placeholder bars galore and things like that. Now he's literally using artificial intelligence to cut corners for his own work. Not even like he's ripping off someone else, he's ripping off himself with AI. Obviously, that sucks, and AI art is bullshit. No one defends that. But it kind of like covers up his inherent laziness as a rapper these days. I guess we should have seen this coming. We also should have seen the fact that this is not an officially released record because the samples are not cleared. And if you think about it, Kanye, continuing to be at best a unpredictable public figure, but of course he's significantly worse than that at these stage in terms of things he says, the imagery he actively promotes, the bullshit he says. Less and less people want to clear samples for him because it's not all about the money after a while, right? So we're 2 albums beyond the fact that he never got to clear the Backstreet Boys Everybody sample, which was the original teaser for Vultures 1, lest we forget. Now, the samples with Bully, largely soul sample, 70s focus, nothing super famous here. Certainly less flashy samples than, say, a Backstreet Boys pull, right? The chorus of Backstreet Boys at that, right? But yeah, I mean, this got taken down off Apple Music after he tried to, jam it through to DSPs anyway. You can only really hear this right now from third-party YouTube uploads, SoundCloud, things like that. We'll see what happens with this. I think the important thing to remember with this is that he's not going to finish it, just like he never finished Donda 2. I mean, I remember getting YouTube comments when I said that about Donda 2, and like Kanye has like a incredibly large sect of like 15-year-old fans that like still believe in him completely as a creative artist and take his word for things like that. This is not getting officially released, just like Vultures 3 isn't coming out, just like Yandi never came out, just like So Help Me God never came out, Donda 3, which probably doesn't really exist, etc., etc., etc. This is what he does, and it's only more frequent these days, right? So again, you'd have to take all of this with massive grains of salt. The most interesting aspect of Kanye's 11th album, Bully, is how lyrically different it is from his incredibly erratic public persona these days. This is an album that's very joyous and upbeat and positive. It's not even defensive like some of his bars on Vultures, and it feels very much out of place for where Kanye actually is in reality. Uncleared 70s soul samples, primarily lots of Ye singing, more singing than rapping on this album. Unfortunately, the rapping that he does do on this is largely filled in with AI Kanye vocals because Kanye remains incapable of finishing music at this point. I do not expect this album to really see the light of day because these samples will not be clear. Songs like Preacher Man, Melrose, like there's some decent songs on here. I prefer the best songs from last year on Vultures 1 though, such as Burn or Carnival, but production wise, it at least intrigues because it brings you back to Kanye circa 4 or 5 seconds 10 years ago. That being said, we continue to grade on a curve when it comes to recent Kanye music. Now, if I think of like the sample stuff going on, right, I do think it was actually kind of interesting what he did recently with Vultures, where he got sued. He continues to be sued for all kinds of stuff like this. But when a Black Sabbath didn't want to, license the sample of Iron Man for Kanye, Kanye in turn redid the song using Hell of a Life from Dark Twisted Fantasy, which of course features a previously already used sample of Iron Man. That is actually kind of clever and funny as far as music sampling and getting around that sort of thing goes. But of course, that's like an extremely limited case. You don't usually have previously cleared versions of samples on deck on your previous work, right? At this point, though, I mean, Kanye is really kind of running out of allies at this point. Ty Dolla $ign previously, not accepting Kanye's blatant anti-Semitism over the last year, so the Vultures project is all but done, and Kanye, of course, will throw darts at anyone who says anything like that. I mean, the thing though is that no one responds to what he says beyond like Playboy Cardi sending out one tweet and getting triple the likes that any of Kanye's bullshit does, Like, it's hard to really stick to just the music, especially when you're getting in such a compromised bootleg state the way you do. You'll notice that I haven't really gravitated and focused on any specific songs on here. Like, I think it's largely pretty boilerplate for the most part. Like, it's really the production and the samples carrying everything. Also, the best aspects of everything are unsurprisingly all the hooks and choruses, because again, the verses are really thin and also pretty sparse. Like, it's mainly singing, right? I would compare this to the Vultures albums and Donda 2, and it's a different flavor, because it's less rapping. I guess it's vaguely like Jesus is King in that regard, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think the Vultures albums had a lot more polish than this, which says a lot because those were not polished albums. But I mean, those had big bangers that I liked compared to this. I mean, there's been a lot of fanfare about Bully online that I find pretty hard to understand, to be honest. And again, I think there's just a lot of like cheerleading fans of Kanye at this stage, which is kind of stupid because we should be holding the standard high given the incredible highs he's previously given us in a lifetime ago at this point. So yeah, Bully, I do think it's worth a listen. It's short. And again, it's just interesting that it's like so reminiscent of like a production style Kanye briefly was using like 10 years ago. And it's so completely different vibe wise and message wise from anything he's saying these days publicly, which is just kind of interesting, I guess. But yeah, that's Kanye's Bully. Let me know what you liked about it. What song stood out to you most? I'm sure there's different versions continuing to come out, but then that'll probably dissipate and we'll just move on like we do with every, half-assed album he puts out. Let me know. And for more music reviews, more rap reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.